Words of our Divine Mother from the book The Mother, Question and Answers of 1954, Volume 6, page 253, continuation of the answer given by our Divine Mother for the question asked by one child as how must one merge oneself, one's separative ego into the divine consciousness? Page 257, continuation. Our Divine Mother says, if your body were not made in the rigid form it is, for it is terribly rigid, isn't it? Well, if all that were not so fixed, if you had no skin here like this solid, if externally you were the reflection of what you were or what you are in the vital and mental fields, it would be worse than being like a jellyfish. Everything would fuse into everything just like this. Oh, what a mess it would be. That is why it was at first necessary to give you a very fixed, rigid form. Afterwards, we complain about it. We say the physical is fixed, it is a nuisance, it lacks plasticity, it lacks suppleness, it hasn't have that fluidity which can enable us to merge into the divine. But this was absolutely necessary. The physical, for without this, you simply went out of your body. Most of you can't do it because the vital being is hardly more individualized than the physical. If you come out of your body and you went into the vital world, you would see that all things there intermingle, they are mixed, they divide, all kinds of vibrations. Currents of force come and go, struggle, try to destroy one another, take possession of one another, absorb each other, throw each other out, and so on. But it is very difficult to find a real personality in all these. These are forces, moments, desires, vibrations. There are individualities, there are personalities, but these are powers. People who are individualized in that world are either heroes or devils. And now in the mind, silence. And then our Divine Mother says, if only you become conscious of your physical mind in itself. Some people have called it a public square because everything comes there, goes across, passes, comes back. All ideas go there, they enter at one place, leave by another. Some are here, some are there, and it is like a public square, not very well organized, for usually ideas meet and knock into one another. There are accidents of all kinds. But when one becomes aware, what can I call my mind or what is my mind will be the question. And then our Divine Mother says, one needs ears of very attentive, very careful, very reasonable, very coherent work, organization, selection, construction, in order to succeed simply in forming, simply this little thing, one's own way of thinking. And then our Divine Mother says, one believes he has his own way of thinking. Not at all. It depends totally upon the people one speaks with, or the books he has read, or on the mood he is in. It depends also on whether you have a good or a bad digestion. It depends on whether you are shut up in a room without proper ventilation or whether you are in the open air. It depends on whether you have a beautiful landscape before you. It depends on whether there is a sunshine or rain. You are not aware of it, but you think all kinds of things completely different according to a heap of things which have nothing to do with you. And for this to become a coordinated, coherent, logical thought, a long, thorough work is necessary. And then the best of the business is that when you have succeeded in making a beautiful, well formed, well strong, very powerful mental construction, the first thing you will be told is you must break this so that you can unite with the divine. But as long as you haven't made it, you cannot unite with the divine because you have nothing to give to the divine except a mass of things which are not yourself. One must first exist in order to be able to give oneself. I am repeating this what I said a while ago. Truly, in the present state of the world, the only thing one can give the divine is one's body. But that's what one doesn't give him. Yes, one can try to consecrate one's work, but still, here, there are so many elements which are not true. You want to merge your body in the divine. Just try. How are you going to do this? You can merge your mind. You can merge your vital. You can fuse all your emotions. You can fuse all your aspirations. You can fuse all that. But your body, how are you going to do that? You are not going to melt it in a boiling pot, right? And then mother laughs. And yet, it is the only thing about which you can say with certitude, it is, and give a name to it. Yet, even your own name is a convention. But still, you are in the habit of calling yourself by a certain name and say, "This is I." You look at yourself in a mirror, and although what you were 20 years ago is very different from what you are now, it is very unrecognizable. Still, something makes you say all the same, "Yes, this is I. Yes, I am so and so. Peter, Jack, Louis, whoever it may be." And then, after a silence, our Divine Mother says, "And even this, if one were to look at oneself every 7 years, all the cells have changed, and it is only by a kind of habit that it remains the same." Does it remain the same? Do you have pictures of the time you were very young and the pictures when you were 10, 12, 13? It is because one very much wants to do so that one recognizes oneself. Otherwise, truly, one is not at all the same. And when you were at this height and now you are in this height, and that makes a considerable difference. So there we are. All this, it is not in order to swamp you that I am telling you all this. It is only in order to tell you that before speaking of merging one's ego in the divine, one must first know a little what one is. The ego is there. Its necessity is that you become conscious, independent beings, individualized. I mean, in the sense of independent, that you may not be the public square where everything goes crisscross, that you must exist in yourself. That is why there is an ego. It is like that. That is why also there is a skin like that, though truly even physical forces pass through the skin. There is a vibration which goes a certain distance, but still it's the skin that prevents us from blending into one another. But everything else must be just like that too. After a silence, our Divine Mother says, and then later one offers all this to the divine. Years of work are needed. You must not only become conscious of yourself, conscious in all details, but you must organize what you call yourself around the psychic center, the divine center of your being, so that it would make a single, coherent, fully conscious being. And as this divine center is itself already consecrated, Mother makes a gesture of offering entirely to the divine. If everything is organized harmoniously around it, everything is consecrated to the divine. And so, when the divine thinks it proper, when the time has come, when the work of individualization is complete, then the divine gives you the permission to let your ego merge in him, to live henceforward only for the divine. But it is the divine who takes this decision. You must first have done all the work, become a conscious being, solely and exclusively centered around the divine and governed by him. And after all that, there is still an ego, because it is the ego which serves to make you an individual. But once this work is perfect, fully accomplished, then at that moment you may tell the divine, "Here I am ready, do you want me?" And the divine usually says, "Yes, all is over, everything is accomplished," and you become a real instrument for the divine's work. But first, the instrument must be constructed. You think you were sent to school, that you were made to do exercises, all this just for pleasure of vexing you? Oh no, it is because it is indispensable for you to have a frame in which you can learn how to form yourself. If you did your work of individualization, of a total formation by yourself, all alone in a corner, nothing at all would be asked of you. but you don't do it, you won't do it. There's not a single child who do it. He won't even know how to do it, where to begin. If a child were not taught how to live, he couldn't live. He wouldn't know how to do anything at all. Therefore, one must take step by step. That is to say, if everyone had to go through the whole experience needed for the formation of their individuality, he would be a long dead before having begun to live. This is the advantage of accumulating through centuries who have had the experience and tell you, well, if you want to go quickly to know in a few years what has been learned through all the centuries, do this. Read, learn, study. In the material world, you will be taught to do this in a way. Once you know a little, you can find your own method if you have the genius of it. But first, one must stand on one's own feet and know how to walk. It is very difficult to learn all alone. It is like that. One must form oneself. Therefore, one needs education. These are the words of our Divine Mother for us to understand, identify ourselves, to merge with the Divine Consciousness.